What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerd friends, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today we're going to be talking about the Solo movie again. Now, I've kind of figured out something that's kind of interesting. I want to discuss it and cover my thoughts and then kind of ask a question on whether or not this is okay, considering something that George Lucas said before when kind of creating the documentary for Phantom Menace. He talked about Star Wars, that the story of Star Wars is kind of like poetry. It kind of repeats itself. There's a rhyme to it. And so this has kind of come up again and again with the more recent Star Wars movie. And the question is going to be, is it that they're just following what George Lucas said? Are they screwing up following what George Lucas said? That that's not what it really means. Kind of like now the balance has become this idea that there has to be equal number of dark side versus equal number of light side, thanks to Snoke. The question though is, Han Solo here, this movie mimics fairly strongly his actual journey in A New Hope. And whether or not that's okay, whether or not it really matters. I know a lot of people complain about The Force Awakens, but nobody really complained about The Last Jedi, even though, as I pointed out in one of my videos, if you go beat by beat, story beats, it copies it almost exactly for what happens. It's just visually, it looks much less like what you see in Empire Strikes Back, as opposed to Force Awakens, which really kind of follows the entire original trilogy, more so than directly A New Hope. But it looks more visually like you're following A New Hope, so everyone kind of jumps on that was, you know, oh my God, it's just a copy. Well, what makes the copy, and when does it really matter? Because if you're copying the storyline or the journey of a character, such as here, Han Solo kind of repeating a same journey, is this okay? Is this a problem? Is this something that we want to see? But let's get into it with skipping the very opening of what's going on. When we kind of get into the meat of the story, he's going to get a job. Of course, that's what's going to happen. He's going to get a job because that's what smugglers do. So he goes to get a job. But when he's on this job, he ends up having to dump the goods to be able to get away and to protect himself. Now, this is what we'll hear at the very beginning with Han Solo. This is kind of the prologue, or, you know, what happens right before we get to meet Han Solo in the cantina, where he's in trouble and he needs money because he dumped the goods for Jabba. So we have that same kind of start off here, and which leads him to be in a lot of trouble and kind of have a bounty on his head with this, you know, kind of big shot gangster, as as Tobias Beckett would say. Now, he doesn't quite have the bounty on his head yet with Dryden Voss, but Beckett makes it quite clear if they try to run, which is what Han does later, then they're going to have a bounty on their head. This leads him to have to do a new job. Now he's having to do this new job to pay off the debts from dropping the goods that he had. Both, again, kind of similar to what happened with A New Hope and now what happened with Solo. This then is kind of off from the storyline and the order that this happens, but when he's on this new job in A New Hope, he ends up rescuing Leia, who becomes the love of his life. Well, in this movie, he ends up kind of rescuing Chewbacca from being in his little area where he's kind of captive to be the beast, and so it's him saving another loved one from the Empire. And then when he's going to kind of do his job, he gets caught in the middle of this rebellion. Now, it's not the same type of rebellion, but they're very clearly talking about it being a rebellion with L3 as she frees everybody, and there's this chaotic fight on Kessel. So it's kind of similar there. And then there's more so the talk in Solo of him being an outlaw. It's more kind of noticed and seen with what Han does in A New Hope, that he's this outlaw, that he's only going to look out for himself. But in the end, what he ultimately does is he gives up his freedom, the money that he has to go back and, you know, pay off Jabba. Even though he's given the money, he doesn't go pay off Jabba, and we know that he ultimately doesn't end up even going to pay him after the fact, because when Empire's still around, he's still needing to pay off the debt, and he still hasn't paid off the debt. And here in the Solo movie, when they get there and he finds out what kind of Enfys Nest and the Cloud Rider gang is saying about the Empire and the Crimson gang, that he realizes that he should give up the money that he would make from this, I believe, 60 million credit deal for this coaxium. He gives it up to help out the rebellion in the end. He ends up being the good guy. which despite what Kira ends up saying in the movie where she goes, I'm the only one that really realizes you're a good guy, he's quite clearly the good guy through the entire movie, which is a problem of mine. But if you want to see my full thoughts on the movie, I'll post a link to my review of the movie there. I won't kind of go into that again here. So in the end, he ends up almost kind of on his own in a sense, saving the rebellion in the end. Now, obviously there was a lot more people at the Battle of Yavin, but it was him coming in at the last minute to shoot off the ties that were behind Luke that allowed him to make the shot. And here, he's the one that goes in with Dryden Voss. Even though Chewie's on his side, Chewie ends up leaving, and yes, Kira does assist with him. But it is his choice, it's his plan, it's him going into the kind of the belly of the beast that could get himself in trouble and killed if he's caught, which he is kind of caught, and then wiggles his way out of it as Han always seems to do. But all these kind of steps in the story, this outline, these beats of what happens in his life, and they don't happen exactly the same, but they are quite similar. And so my question is, as I laid out kind of at the beginning, for you to comment down below, because I want to hear your thoughts and kind of have a discussion on it, is whether or not this is okay. Is it all right to copy these types of things? Is this what George Lucas meant? Or is this taking it, too literal? Or are they even realizing what they're doing, which is very possible that they're not realizing, that they're just copying kind of everything that they do? Do they not care? I don't know, but I look forward to hearing your thoughts on all of it down below. I just found this kind of interesting when you kind of look at it. It's something that isn't as obvious at first glance, kind of like the video on The Last Jedi, kind of mimicking the story beats of Empire Strikes Back. It's not something that you pick up so clearly and so obviously, and so I wanted to kind of break that down and discuss it with all of you. As some of you have asked me before, because some of my videos, this one not included actually, are kind of a little bit longer, and I've been asked about podcasts. So I have set up the podcast. I loaded up all my prior videos that I've done before onto the podcast. They are linked down below, and also down below will be a link to my Teepublic page if you'd like to pick up any of that. That would be absolutely incredible. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.